Several years ago, I was taking a flight from California to Oregon for a speaking engagement, and there was a connecting flight in Utah. As I was in line for this connecting flight, I realized that these lines were kind of undefined. So I got in the line to Oregon, and running through the area was this man, seemed to be late for his. He said, "Is this the flight to Palm Springs?" And I said, "No, it's over there. This is the flight to Oregon." And so he ran through and got on his flight, and I got on mine. And I never thought another thing until the plane landed. And then the flight attendant announces, "We've arrived in Palm Springs." And I laughed and I leaned forward and I said, "You know, that's not a good joke." And she looked at me and she said, "Well, that's not a joke. We've landed in Palm Springs." And I finally went to the desk and I said, "I've got a problem here. I need to get to Oregon." And she said, "I'm sorry. There are no more flights out tonight, and there are no flights tomorrow." She said, "I might be able to get you on a flight tomorrow night, but that wouldn't put you there till the next morning." So I walked out on the sidewalk. Here it is at midnight, and I'm thinking, what am I going to do? Suddenly, this tiny little car drives up, and the young lady that was at the desk looks out through that window and says, "Get in." I was kind of scared. I said, "What do you mean, get in?" She said, "I heard you say where you lived. It's the direction I'm going. What I'm going to do is take you home, and then I'm going to come pick you back up at 4 a.m. I think I can get you on a 6 a.m. flight." 4 a.m, she shows up just like she said she would. She says, "Get in." Again, I get in. We're going down that dirt road, and I said, "Who are you?" I said, I'm trying to understand why you were doing this for a complete stranger." So I asked her, I said, are you by any chance a person of faith? She goes, "Well," she said, "I wouldn't say I know God, but I know who He is." And I said, "Well, you are just like Him." She said, What do you mean?" I said, "Well, you have this unconditional regard and care for a person you don't know." She took me back to the airport. I got off. She stayed with me. I got on the plane after hugging her like we had known each other forever. And that's the last I saw of her. What I didn't realize at the time is that I had unmistakably entered a modern version of a gospel story. A Roman centurion has a suffering servant, and he goes to Jesus and he wants healing for that servant. Here we have a Roman centurion who has probably been hearing Jesus speak and believing that something is real about this. And so he's basically just saying, just say the word. I'm an officer. I know what it means to just say what should happen, and it happens. I believe. And Jesus is amazed at the kind of faith that centurion has. That Roman centurion is the link between that suffering servant and the hope that that servant needs. So when I got to the speaking engagement, I got up to speak, and I just stopped. I said, "I just have to tell you a story." There was a young woman who didn't know me and wanted to do everything she could to help me get here to talk to you. And the story is this: that when you are cared for like that, you begin to understand who God really is and what He wants you to be about in the world. I've been on countless flights and given many presentations since then, but this young lady's unconditional regard for me helps me stay rooted in faith.